You hear your master because your ear is close to the door and Yeshua is the door. So your ear is close to him. You can hear his commands and you obey. It symbolizes that your ear is always open. You're always listening. You're always walking in obedience. Bondservant is what the Bible uses to describe a slave, but it's a slave for life, and it's a slave by choice. All the New Testament writers describe themselves as bondservants, as slaves. Paul, James, John, there's one more, who am I forgetting? Paul, James, John, Peter. Paul, James, John, and Peter all said, Paul, a bondservant of Yeshua HaMashiach, so on and so forth. This comes from Exodus 21. So this is right after we know Exodus 20 is the giving of the Ten Commandments. Okay? And right after that, you have the law of the altar. Most people think that most mainstream believers believe that when God spoke the Ten Commandments, that's all he said. That's not true. There's like many chapters here where he kept on speaking. The Ten Commandments are set above everything else because they're honored. They have a place. But there's also other commandments, and this is one of them. It says, now these are the judgments which you shall set before them. If you buy a Hebrew servant, he shall serve you 6 years, and in the seventh he should go out free and pay nothing. So context is, if a man is selling himself to you, not that he's been kidnapped. If a man is poor and can't feed his family and wants to serve you, he'll sell himself to you. You can buy him, but he can only serve you for 6 years. On the seventh year, he's to go free. He's set free. And I'm going to skip ahead because there's some distinctions here about marriage and children and things like that. But if the servant plainly says, I love my master, my wife, and my children, I will not go out free. Then his master shall bring him, I just lost my place, shall bring him to the judges, and he shall also bring him to the doorpost. His master shall pierce his ear with an awl, and he shall serve him forever. So who's the door? Yeshua. Yeshua is the door. So if a man loves his master, so this must be that you love your master and you don't want to leave. Number two, you have to say publicly that you love your master and you don't want to go free. This is not coercion. This is not violence. This is a choice. And you're saying, I love my master Yeshua. I want to serve him the rest of my life. And your ear is pierced at the door, and you are actually, I can't remember which ear it is. I think it's your left ear. I don't remember, I'm sorry. Your ear is pierced at the door, and you're a slave forever. And the thing is, your master can give you a wife, but you don't choose that wife. Your master gives that wife to you. Your master then technically has your wife and your children. They belong to him. So how many of us have wives and children? If we say we're a bondservant, if we say we're slaves to our master Yeshua, that means they belong to him. Their life and their death are in his hands. Their destiny is in his hands. And we look to him. One thing a bondservant does that's different from a regular person is they don't seek their own justice. A bondservant doesn't have a right to defend himself with violence against others. He does have a right to go to his master for justice. His master, in this case, our master is Yeshua. He's the one who provides justice. And most often, his justice happens at the end of days. The truth is that many people around the world who are believers, who look to the Messiah for justice, die, are murdered, are killed, or worse. And they will receive justice at the end of days. But we come to our master. We come to him laying down our life, recognizing the fact that we may die. We don't have a right to take up a defense of ourselves and violence against another. I wasn't even planning on talking about this. But we look to him as our master for our justice. And that's what Yeshua, the Sermon on the Mount is called. It's from Matthew 5 to Matthew 8:1, and Luke as well. The Sermon on the Mount is all about, it's preaching to bondservants, it's preaching to slaves. It's not preaching to the common person. If you're a believer and you don't recognize Yeshua as your master, honestly, the sermon doesn't apply to you. Because This is about going to him for justice, going to him with your life and trusting him for all you are. Putting your ear against Yeshua. David was a bondservant too. David said, "My ear you have opened." That's a reference to being a bondservant. And guess what? You hear your master because your ear is close to the door and Yeshua is the door. So your ear is close to him. You can hear his commands and you obey. It symbolizes that your ear is always open. You're always listening. You're always walking in obedience. And so this is the foundation of the understanding of the writers of the New Testament. They're saying we're slaves to Yeshua. He's our master. He'll provide us justice. He'll provide for us. He'll give us our wife. He gives us our children. And he loves us. And we love him. It's all about love.